Hello, welcome to Echo Archery. Today we are doing a little how-to on primitive style arrow fletching using a Sinew wrap. We have some Douglas fir shafts here today that have some self nocks already wrapped with Sinew, and we will be fletching them with natural turkey feathers using some long pieces of elk back sinew and hide glue. We'll finish it off with some pitch to protect the sinew and hide glue from moisture. As you can see, the preparation of the feathers has already been completed. This is the way I like to cut my feathers for sinew wrapping, taking a small chunk of the feather bits off the main vein just towards the end. That'll be where we do our top wrap, leaving a little bit of extra feather on there. Allows you to gives you something to pull on and pull that feather down tight to the shaft. Be a little easier to see when we get to that point. But when you cut your feathers, cut them to uniform length and take a little bit of feather off on the leading edge too for starting your fletching or your sinew wrap. It's also a good idea when you're taking turkey feathers, using turkey feathers for sinew wrap fletch, to take them from the same, take them directly off the wing. That way you can keep feathers together. So for example, these 3 feathers will go on one arrow. These next 3 will go on one arrow. That way you keep this natural helical twist that the feather has uniform within the arrow. There will be a little bit of variation within, say, this half dozen of arrows. You will get good arrow flight, better arrow flight, if you take the effort to match these up from the same part of the wing. One more thing I wanted to add about the feathers is that the base here is peeled from the feather rather than split in half with the utility knife and then ground down with a sanding disc. It's not too hard to pull turkey feathers. That we'll save that for another how-to video. So here we have our sinew. For fletching, I like to select longer pieces of sinew. This is some elk backstrap sinew. Pull smaller piece off of there. Nice. That's a pretty big thread. Rather than soak in water, I do like to chew sinew. I think it turns out better when sinew's chewed. I don't know if it has to do with enzymes in saliva or not, but that's what we do here. And so I'll chew this, and this will probably pull apart into 2, maybe even 3 pieces for wrapping. Our hide glue over here is well, about the consistency of light syrup, and I will size the arrow shaft where the feathers will contact, and that'll allow our sinew wrap starts and ends and spiraling to adhere to the shaft a little better. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, we're gonna take a little hide glue and just spread that out along the shaft where the fletching's gonna go. Make sure you get good coverage. This hide glue is a little thick, so it's tacking up pretty fast. Right now I'm chewing the piece of sinew that's going to be used for this particular arrow, probably the next couple arrows. So sinew is just about ready to wrap. Take one of these feathers here, and I usually start with the cock feather, one that's going to point out away from the arrow shelf, and I check the spacing next to the nock there. And I want my sinew wrap to end up just below my nock wrap. Just a little space in there for your fingers, and draw that arrow without making too much noise. So now that I know where that is, I'll start wrapping with the sinew here. There it is, warm, hydrated, ready to take some hide glue. As you can see, that's probably more than enough for this one arrow. So I'm going to tease it apart a little bit at the fat end. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. Pull off a piece, let that sit over there. So now we have our piece for wrapping. I like to start with the large end and then apply a little hide glue to that. It's also a good idea to keep a little dish of warm water handy, paper towel for keeping your fingers clean. Alright, let's take that feather again and check our starting point one more time. Okay, right there. So go ahead and take our sinew. I typically go clockwise if you're looking down the shaft from the point in. So I start and make one wrap over the tail or the beginning. Then we get the feather back in there. Starting that right there, get that secured, hold that down, get your next feather. This is always a little difficult. You want to get spacing right, you want to get the angle of the feather right. So the spacing between them can be adjusted after you get that initial wrap on. Usually go around one more time. Hopefully you can see this. So now all three feathers have a wrap around them. Once, twice. So now we've got those snug. We can move them around a little bit to correct the spacing and the angle. You want to make sure that the feather goes down the shaft, starting off not quite straight but a little away, and then it will come back to straight. Spacing looks pretty good on these initially. I have to adjust that. Another thing I like to do is keep the sinew moist. Apply a little saliva. Okay, now this feather here has a large base, which is making it a little difficult to eyeball the spacing. It needs to go over a little bit. Okay, so now we complete the wrap, the base. Actually, the length of this piece is sinew. I'm gonna just go long enough to secure that. Then we're gonna start the wrap. You break through the feather, you just press it through. You don't want to go very far up that first one. Keep the angle low. Pull through and bring it down. Then the next one, go a little higher. This gets easier to judge the more you do it. This is my first arrow for the day. The sixth one will be a little better. Again, you need to re-wet that sinew, keep it flexible, and keep good tension on the sinew as you wrap it. Break through the feather, pull down. Now some people like to start the feather out with a little pitch and place your feathers that way. That's another way you can do it. I find that that step's not always necessary. You really have to keep a consistent angle once you start to keep those feathers, keep the base nice down and flat, tight. I'm holding the other end of the shaft between the legs, secure it so I can use 2 hands here. This piece of sinew is going to run a little short on us. I wasn't very good on the consistency of my angle, or really this will be a wrap to be done over. That happens. It's a warm-up wrap. But you get the idea here of how it's done. What we can do is I was out of frame there for a while, sorry about that. Wrap these top pieces tight, well, as tight as we can with this little piece. That sinew's about done. That gives us a start. We can come back with a second piece and finish this arrow off. So now, here's what I was trying to explain earlier. You can pull this into the feather to get the base of the sinew tightened up, flat to the feather. I don't really like the way that one turned out. This is going to be redone. Let's do that again. I'm just going to take this out. I'm going to use this to secure the base of the feathers and nothing more. We'll find a longer piece of sinew to wrap this fletch with. A little bit more high glue there for this. I'm just going to wrap these tight. Spacing looks good. Alignment looks pretty good. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to wet a longer piece of sinew and then come back to do the spiral fletch. Okay, here we have a longer piece of sinew. It's about 20 inches. Should give us plenty of sinew to work with. You can go the same direction that you did with that sinew that secured the leading edge of the feathers. Get a good wrap over the sinew itself. Pull it tight, maybe twice here. Secure the loose end of that sinew. Then we're going to go, because this piece is long, do a nice low angle spiral. Get lots of wraps in. And this just takes practice. Depending on how often you do this. If you're doing more than one feather, more than one arrow at once, you should notice a little difference in the first and last arrow. Typically wraps get a little better, a little more uniform, a little cleaner as you go along. That angle's a little high. Come back. Yeah, spacing jumped ahead a little bit there. And this just takes a little bit of practice. It's really not that difficult. Having sinew that's long enough certainly helps. This will give us plenty to do a finish wrap here. Now, the more even your spiral wrapping is, the better the base of your feathers will hold down to the shaft. It's when you get some uneven wrapping that there tends to be gaps that are difficult to remedy. Here we are, wrapping through that gap. Want to cover up all those little unsightly pieces that were trimmed with the feather, or trimmed with the scissors. Once we got a couple wraps on there, we'll give these ends of feathers a good tug. Right now I'm pulling down, cinching down a little bit on the sinew, keeping it tight at the same time that I pull these feathers snug. We're also checking the gap between the feathers. Then while I've still got enough sinew to finish off the wrap, I'm going to go ahead and cheat and use my scissors here. And clip my little tug piece. Okay, now a little bit more high glue on that sinew. Alright, now we're wrapping over the feather quill, cleaning it up. This also adds to the reinforcement at the nock end. Get some good durability. Now with these fur shafts, it's a good idea to orient your self nock. Well, I wouldn't recommend doing it any other way, but to orient your self nock perpendicular to the annual growth rings in the shaft wood. If you do this, you can actually get away without even wrapping the nock. If you don't do that, there better be a really strong reinforcing nock wrap on there. Alright, just tidy that up a little bit. And there it is. We'll trim these feathers down either with the young feather trimmer or some scissors, or even end of a hot stick. Thanks for joining us. One other thing that I like to do after wrapping the fletching is to take some of that high glue and a little craft brush and just coat over that wrapping. This is just about the right thickness of high glue, my personal taste for this purpose. You want to penetrate into the base, those feathers where they meet the shaft. But you don't want it so thick that it cracks as it dries out. Eventually we'll cover the ends with pitch, and sometimes I like to use shellac brushed on over this hide glue between the feathers here as a way to protect it from moisture. Side glue helps protect that sinew. Helps it adhere to the shaft, but also gives it a little better abrasion resistance if you're shooting in the dirt, missing the target. And the sinew wraps don't stand up to abrasion real well. The hide glue and then shellac finish help in that category a little bit. Do a little bit more hide glue on the nocks. I also do this when I do the nock wraps, just to make them a little stronger. Alright, and let that dry. Alright, so here's 6 arrows fletched. The fletching's a little long right now, so we're going to trim it down. You can use scissors, obsidian flake, hot charcoal, or the young feather burner. I've just got a straight wire on there. I've got it extending past the nock receiver and the shafting groove. I won't be using that guide. I'll just be using the hot straight edge to trim these feathers up just by eye. So we'll start that here in a minute. Alright, here we are with the feather burner. Here we are. The feather burner is plugged in, hot and ready to go. Start shaping these feathers by hand. Good idea to do this in a area that has good ventilation. Smell the well, it smells like hair burning, so not a smell you want to fill the house with. Sometimes you need your feathers to stand up just a little more. You might be laying down. Make sure you have them matched up pretty well. Get them even. Doesn't take a whole lot of fletching to improve your arrow flight over shooting a bare shaft. So you don't need to leave real long, tall fletching on there. But everybody has their own fletching style they like, prefer. There you go. Spiral wrap, sinew fletched turkey feather.